Okay, so these are a summary of the big ideas that we've talked about. Okay, so exponent rules. When there's multiplication, coefficient stuff. If it is a coefficient, then it is normal math. So the coefficients need to get multiplied, normal math. You do not have a calculator, so keep practicing your times tables. I gave you a few of those. The base is x, and then the exponent rules apply to the base. So the exponent rule with multiplication is to add. Okay, so the next rule, division. So coefficients get normal math. So divide 8. The base in this situation is y, and then you have an exponent rule to follow, subtraction. Okay, the next one, some of you got this wrong on your quiz. Okay, here's the idea. Is 6 a coefficient or a base? That's what you're thinking about. It's a base. Okay, so you don't do normal math with it. It's a base. So 6 is still a base. So 6 to a negative 2, because I have to subtract, okay? Do you see a difference? Some of you wrote 1 because you were trying to divide the 6, but you can't. It's not a coefficient. Do you see a difference? I'm going to rewrite this, though. How do I rewrite negative exponents? 1 over. Yep, change their location. And then I'm still looking for more. That's as far as I can go. Okay, the power rule. So again, there's a coefficient, so you have to do normal math. So what is the normal math? You're doing a 3 getting cubed. So you have to do that without a calculator. So knowing these numbers, 3 times 3 times 3, 27. The base A, and then you do the rules. So now the rule is to do what? Multiply. Okay, the exponent 0 rule. So anything, no matter what, to a 0, 1. The 1 rule, anything to a 1 is itself. Okay, next, a rule with negative bases. Okay, so this question says what is negative 9 squared? So what is negative 9 times negative 9? 81, positive. Versus this question, what says what is negative 1 times 9 squared? Do you see a difference in the math? That's what's happening. So that answer is actually a negative 81. Okay? So you know that those, somewhere I'm going to try to put those two on there that you're comparing. Okay, let's talk about having bases of 1 or negative 1. So this one is, what is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times a bunch of times? So that is just 1. If I do a negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 and so on an even amount of times, it would be positive 1. And then here, if I repeat negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, this is an odd number, negative 1. Okay, so those ideas will be on your test as well. Ooh, I should have left my room here, sorry. Okay, negative exponent rules. So this negative exponent means I'd have to move it to a bottom. Sorry, I don't know why my spacing it was bad on that one. So I move the location, and there I'm expecting an evaluation of the number. Okay, so the next one, there's a negative exponent, so there's going to be a move. But some of you will probably get tricked by this. Do you know that I don't move the 8? Does the 8 have a negative coefficient attached to it? No, so it doesn't move. The negative 4 is only applying to the A, so that's the only thing that's moving, okay? Do you see that? That would have tricked some of you. I'm sure some of you would have tried to move the 8 with that, but it doesn't, okay? So if you need to star that because you got tricked, make sure you star that. Okay, so this one, you can think about it in two different ways. Actually, if you're okay, I'm going to just go on to the bottom of the page because there's a little bit of room, right? Okay, so I'm going to do this question twice. I'm going to do it in two different methods. Okay, so the first method is I'm going to apply the negative 2 to everything right now. So 8 to a negative 2. X to a positive 18. Y to a positive 14. And W to a negative 2. Okay, now looking at that. Okay, I'm going to take things and you tell me if they would stay or move. The 8 part, do you want it to stay there or move it? Move. So 8 squared on the bottom. The X part stays. The Y part stays. The W part moves. Okay, so this would be my final answer. Okay, I'm going to do this another way. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move everything, so I'm going to flip this around and make it a positive 2. That's the same thing as moving and changing the exponent. That's what I did, but I moved the whole fraction and changed the exponent. You see my flip, and then now it's 2. Okay? You can now apply the 2, or you can move and then apply the 2. We can do a bunch of different things. So I'm going to forget the 2 for a second. I'm going to keep the W on the top. I'm going to move this is going to move to the top. This would move to a bottom. And now I can apply the 2. Okay, so we get to the same result. Okay, but I wanted you to see this move where I flipped the whole fraction and it just made the exponent 2. Okay, square roots. Okay, so this rule would be, well, what's the square root of 81? 9. And then you count the zeros. So there was 4 zeros behind it. So this will have 2 zeros. And then x to the what? So I'm thinking x to the what? X to the 1th what will make an x10. x5 times an x5 would add to 10. Okay, so the next one, I think about what's the square root of 16. So that's a 4. The decimal places were 4, so now the decimal places need to be 2. And the last one here, so square rooting a fraction, just square root individuals. So the top would become 2, and the bottom would become a 5. Okay, classifying numbers. Some of us on our quiz kind of forgot these. Make sure you study them before your test. I will provide these words for you, but you have to know what's what. Natural, whole, integer, rational, or irrational. Okay, so 9 is a natural number. Negative 3 is a integer number. The square root of 40, I'm trying to think, does that square root perfectly? No. So if it doesn't square root perfectly, that means it's a decimal that just goes and goes and goes. So that would be a irrational. A decimal that just stopped, that is a rational. And 0 is the only one that ever is called a whole number. And I always remember it. Okay, estimating roots. So you need to have all your square root numbers ready to go. So I would know the lower end would be a square root of 49. And then, so it's between a square root of 49 and 64. Therefore, the value of this will be somewhere between 7 and 8. And you're going to go to one decimal place. So what do you want to do? 7 point, and then you kind of think, am I closer to one end or the other? 7.7, sure. Okay, no calculator, you're just giving me one decimal estimate. Okay, cubic. Make sure you look that has a cube root. So what are some cube root numbers I know? I know the cube root of 27, because that's 3. Do you know the next cubic number? 64. Therefore, this is between 3 and 4. So 3 point. Where would you kind of put 40 in the mix of those numbers? 3.3, 3.4, something, right? It's an estimate. Okay, mixed, entire radicals, mixed radicals. So the square root of 50, so thinking of a magic number, 50 is divisible by 25. 25 times 2 is 50. And then the square root of 25 is 5. So 5 root 2. Okay, 40 is divisible by what perfect cube number? This has got to be a cube number. So make sure you know your cube numbers. You have 8, 27, 64. So we're divisible by 8. 8 times 5 is 40, right? The cubed root of 8 is 2. Okay, this time I'm needing you to go from a mixed to a whole radical. So where did I develop a 5 from? What would I have needed? A square root of 25. So this is a replacing of a 5. And then I'm going to do this without my calculator again. The square root of, and then I have to multiply that together. And think about what's 25 times 2. So that's 50, and then put a 0 on it, right? Without your calculator. Okay, so this is a cubed. So everything's dealing with cubes. So the cubed root of what would I have needed there to make that 2 in the front? 8. And then that's the cube root of 32 together. Okay, I noticed that I didn't put one on here, but sometimes I might throw another coefficient in the front, then you just have to multiply that later. Okay, radical form. This is, I think, where I kind of lose most people with points on a test. Convert this from a radical to exponential. So x to the what exponent? Seven over 12. Okay, so now when you do a cubed root, it's the same as doing a what? So 8y to the what exponent? 1/3. Okay, and then I am going to do a more simplified of this. So this is exponential form. And now I'm going to evaluate it because what is 8 to a 1/3? You can do that. 2. Okay, maybe star that question because, bless you, I get lots of people who forget how to do this in exponential and then how to go further. So on your test, I have it. Please write it as exponential and then another step, simplify it. Okay, so this one needs to go into a radical. Okay, so now what would need to be in a radical to give me a 6? 36. I'm trying to think if I even put that down, if it will help you. I think it's coming off the floor. A to the, I'm not going to need this, but this would be a 1, and this would be a 2, right? Like that, but I'm not going to write them. But there would be a secret 1 there and a secret 2 there, and then B to the 9 halves, right? You don't need the 2 there. It's not wrong if you put the 2 there. Okay, here's what I want you to star, making sure you change that number. Don't put a 6 in there because I didn't have a radical with a 6 to give me a 6. So make sure you're doing the math with the coefficient stuff. Okay, so there's a few questions on your test that are just harder. So this one would be considered a little bit of a harder one. So there's a few things to do. We can work inside and then do the exponent if you want, or we could put the exponent in there now. It doesn't matter. You want to do the exponent first, is that what I said? Okay, so here we go. A to a negative 16 then. A to a positive 6. 10 to a negative 2. A to a positive 2. Okay, I applied the negative 2 from the outside to everything then. Okay, now what do you want to do? Do you want to attack the negatives and flip them? Or do you want to do the combinations of the A's together with the rules? You can do them in any steps. Flip the negatives. So I don't want to look at negative exponents anymore. So A to the 6 would stay on the top, and an A16 would move. Stay, move. That would have to stay, and that would have to move. Tenth squared, I'm going to put that as 100 now. And I'm going to do the bottom ones together. So on the bottom, total is an A to the 18. Now I would subtract the exponents. So a 6 minus 18 is negative 12. And on your test, I'm looking for you to not express with negative exponents. Okay, all final answers on tests are not to have negative exponents on them. Okay, some of you probably understand this, just canceling an A to the 6 out, canceling an A to the 6 out. Okay, so let's try this one. So this one, I'm going to work in the brackets first. So what is 8 times 8? So that's a 64. X to the something. And what am I going to do as a rule? The exponents would need to get what together? Added. So I'm going to do that over here on the side. I want to change both bottoms to be a 36, common denominator. Okay, so there you see me doing my common denominator work. Multiply that by 4, by 9, 17 over 36. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about this coefficient. So this is going to have to happen to my coefficient, right? Negative 1/3. That's what that means. The cubic root of. So you can kind of see me separating my ideas. My coefficient is the math. Exponent, I'm going to do rules with them. So I have to multiply these together. So top becomes negative 17. The bottom becomes 36 times 3. (36 times 3), so 108. Okay, so now, how do I evaluate this? I think about, hey, what's the cubed root of 64? 4. Okay, so everything that we have here has negative exponents on it, so everything would have to move to a bottom. So 4. And then since I moved everything to the bottom, and there was really nothing left on the top, what should I write myself on the top? 1. Okay, so those questions have a lot involved, but you know all those small things. You just have to make sure you're putting them together. I noticed that I didn't really put a question on there. I didn't really put a question on there like that, but do we know how to evaluate those? So this question, the 3 on the bottom means doing a cubic root, right? That was what we learned. Okay, so there's what I would do first. What is the cubic root of that? So that's a 5. Which would turn into a flip idea. Change location. Okay, sorry, I forgot to put that on your study guide. So this paper is a little bit of a study guide, what kind of ideas would be on a test. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you a quiz, and it's going to go towards your test. So to start your test, this is my answer key for my test. This is your quiz tomorrow. I need you to fill out this without a calculator tomorrow. Okay? So do you know all your square root numbers? Right? All the way to 10. Okay? I want all your cube numbers. So 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed, 4, 5. Can we do 6? I know that we don't really run into it a lot, but I put it on there. So 6 cubed. 216. And I also put this on. You need to do 2 to the power of. So can you do 2 all the way up to a 2 to the 6th? Okay, 2 to the 4th, 2 to the 5th, 2 to the 6th. Okay, so that's your quiz tomorrow. I need you to have that memorized and ready to go. Okay, that's your answer key. That's how I'm grading you.